Robservations with Meyer Burnett.
Our friend Pedro Ferreira writes in and says, this is a review. Obviously, we lost Tawny Kitaen. We lost her. And she starred in a movie called The Perils of Gwendoline in the Land of the YIK-YAK, which you can get on Blu-ray. Pedro has reviewed a movie, and this movie he reviewed. When I decide to watch a film I've never watched before, I can never be certain what I've let myself in for. People may recommend a film like Gwendoline, a.k.a. The Perils of Gwendoline in the Land of the YIK-YAK, 1984, as a fun cult movie, and I'll take that chance. Little did I realize how wacky director Just Jakin's last movie would be. By the way, architect of the Emmanuel franchise, directing Emmanuel and Emmanuel 2, Emmanuel 3, what a disappointment. Anyway, just saying. After years of directing erotic movies, Jakin tried to somewhat depart from the norm by adapting John Woolley's comic book Sweet Gwendoline, a misadventure series with both gothic and bondage elements. The series involved Gwendoline, a naive damsel in distress who had a habit of getting tied up and punished over the course of the stories. Oh yeah. Woolley worked with Jakin to develop the script. What evolved from this writing partnership was a script that both combined Indiana Jones with artistic nude situations or content you'd expect from Jakin's previous work. There can be no doubt the second half of the movie integrates the stylings of the Mad Max series with Ben-Hur, all with sexual elements an audience watching his earlier work would probably expect from this director. Completely produced by Para-France Films, the whole thing was a huge undertaking. It had the highest budget of any French film made yet, and the film was never a big enough hit worldwide to keep the studio from eventually going out of business. Seeing how both France and North America marketed the movie through theatrical trailers is interesting, with France presenting Gwendoline as a typically art house film, while the U.S. pushes the Indiana Jones elements. Yeah, because God forbid we have anything that has sexual content in mainstream theaters. The movie sits in between, and it's nothing as expected. Its identity crisis is whether it should be an adventure or a bondage fantasy. Why not both? Jakin crafted a bizarre film, and perhaps it failed for precisely that reason. It's too crazy to make any sense. Gwendoline, Tawny Kitaen, is on the trail of a rare butterfly to continue her lost father's research, which was set to make him famous. Arriving in China, she uncovers evidence her father was killed in the search of the fabled insect. Determined to succeed regardless of danger, she enlists the help of Navy mercenary Willard, played by Brent Huff. Along with her loyal maid Beth, Zabu Brightman, the three of them take a journey of perilous adventures from the cannibal tribe called the Kyops through to the dangerous land of the YIK-YAK, where they meet the underground people of Pakao. Can Gwendoline find the rare butterfly that eluded her father, or will she fall foul of Picaho's queen, Bernadette Lawfort, someone who seeks to control all civilizations? The plot, when you look at what the characters are after, is ridiculous. They're putting their lives in danger continuously, all for a rare butterfly. All for this butterfly? I mean, it better be worth it. They at least acknowledge the silliness of their end goal. It's just as well that Butterfly remains a MacGuffin because Just Jakin, what a name to have, has created a crazy yet highly entertaining movie. The location shooting is lovely and the set design is handled extremely well, especially in the second half of the movie where the characters end up in the land of the YIK-YAK. The film at this point presents an underground society run by women in bondage gear, like my Saturday nights. Looking like rejects from a Mad Max movie, yet most of the time wearing less, Jakin uses the screen space to present his scantily clad extras as an art exhibit of fetishes. It's especially noticeable during a scene where a disguised Gwendoline enters a room of half-naked prisoners, all in different kinds of torture apparati. The dangerous yet creative set design and costumes was thanks to concept designers Francois Schouten and Claude Renard, whose brief was to be as big and wild as possible. It is worth pointing out their original concepts were even more over-the-top and surreal, but budget constraints reined them in. Needless to say, the release of Gwendoline was for many the first interaction they'd had with bondage, And the film's main legacy to this day is that it made bondage mainstream, just how Jaken's first movie, Emmanuelle, explored the boundaries of sex in film. Jaken and the concept artist, by the way, the Emmanuelle series coming to 4K in Germany. Yes, they are pre-ordered. Jaken and the concept artists are successful in creating a living, breathing underground society that conforms to the dictatorial rule of ancient Roman culture. What I totally wasn't expecting was a chariot race where the female slaves are the horses. It, of course, makes no sense whatsoever. Why do slaves keep pulling the chariots when they can just pull themselves free and make a run for it? But it's an amazing sight to watch. There does indeed seem to be a lot pulled from Roman history, with Gwendoline also taking part at one point in a gladiatorial battle arena. I mean, come on, don't you want to see this movie? The cast, of course, vary considering the leads are a combination of both American and French actors. Kitaen is okay as the naive but strong-willed woman out to continue her father's work, but she seems a little lost at times with everything that's going on. Huff is also fine as the scoundrel Willard, but their interplay feels forced and stilted, not helped by Jaken's mediocre dialogue. The nature of shooting in France with mostly French actors meant that apart from Kitaen and Huff, most of the dialogue was spoken in French, which was then later dubbed into English. As with most foreign movies, it's extremely noticeable even with good actors like Zabu Brightman. She does fare much better as Beth. Brightman's character is cartoonish and over the top, accentuated by her helmeted hairstyle, but even with all this working against her, Zabu easily outshines her co-stars due to having more acting experience. There's a scene where she's had enough and starts slapping her lead cannibal captive around by storming off. While the dialogue is iffy and the looped sound does her no favors, she still makes a good impression. I just wish they'd synced her dialogue better. Bernadette Lafont fares worse, and she is great in the role, playing the authoritarian queen who sees Gwendoline as a threat to her status of beauty. Lafont clearly couldn't or wasn't asked to deliver her dialogue in English, which is a shame as she is terrific in her role as the queen. Likewise, Jean Rougerie's role as Darcy, a character from the original comic, is entertaining, as is the scheming scientist who's found a way to steal authority from the queen, yet requires Gwendoline to fulfill his plans. He's just let down by the looping, which is odd considering Rougerie could speak English. Music by Pierre Bachelet is amazing, going from exotic synth embraces to the journey to the ethereal choir of Picajo's Destiny. The music industry is poorer without him. Ultimately, the production is polished and extravagant for a foreign movie with some impressive stunt choreography, and I suppose even the childish humor will appeal to some. As a whole, it all makes you forget the plot holes, like what's the payoff with the crystals, the underdeveloped plot regarding the volcano as a weapon, or why the film ends on such an anticlimactic matter, with the characters penniless and stranded in the middle of nowhere. For this to be Jaken's last film, he certainly ended on a rather impressive and unique note, even if the plot, with its need for exploitation and theatrics, means it comes across as more a B-movie with art house direction and a decent budget. The difficulties of marketing such a movie, from its themes and sexual bondage, some gratuitous violence, along with a lack of familiar star names in it. Gwendoline is perhaps tonally out of step with what worldwide audiences would be willing to sit through. Well, you got that right, Pedro. As mentioned at the beginning of the review, the film doesn't know what it wants to be, trying to pander to adventure fans while pandering to fans of Jaken's earlier film, Emmanuelle. I think what it's trying to be is awesome. In what would be Jaken's last movie, he, along with author John Willie, have managed to successfully adapt the misadventures of its titular heroine to the big screen. Gwendoline isn't the smartest movie made, and I can understand its lack of appeal outside its own country. The source material is absurd pulp as it is, and the movie manages to retain all that for better or worse. The set designs and costumes grand, the story nonsense, the characters cartoonish, while the film never shies away from its casual sexual references. What then should be a complete disaster becomes an underground cult classic, an oddity that should be B-movie, yet has been professionally produced with the best resources France filmmaking then had to offer. It's a mad movie, but never boring and a lot easier to find than that damn butterfly. It's certainly worth watching at least once out of interest. And in case you forgot what movie this is either Gwendoline or The Perils of Gwendoline in the Land of the YIK-YAK. So all I can tell you is that you should see it. Because boy, let me tell you, you're not gonna be sorry, or maybe you will be. I don't know. Maybe you could be. Maybe. Hard to say.